I just wanted to do a quick update because I don't know if it's gonna be quick. Well, trying to make it quick. This cancer scare. So I had to take down my clips temporarily because I got to go through some stuff, but they'll be back up. Don't worry, it ain't like that. Um, I went through major hell with this, and I know there's some people that were thinking very positively about this situation, but it's very different when you're going through it and what doctors are telling you at the time. And I said there was a very horrific incident that happened, and I had to, well, I filed a complaint with the hospital itself, but I haven't contacted the medical group yet, which I will probably do. Because then some more series of events happened. So when I made the complaint to them after that horrific event, they were shocked. And the reason why I wasn't even going to report it at all, because I keep making these reports, and every time I do, they just kind of look at it and go whatever and do nothing. And so they don't change anything that the doctors did or fire certain ones, or certain doctors that actually should have been fired and in jail, such as the sexual assaulter one. But they continually hide that stuff. And this particular one was like malpractice ish type. It was really bad, and I ended up getting kind of an injury from it, and then I tried to set up an appointment to get an ultrasound, and then when I went in for the ultrasound, this is where it got even darker though. I went into the ultrasound, and they said they don't do ultrasound for that. I would need an MRI, and they don't know why they set up a thing for that. It was so weird. Like I woke up at the crack of dawn because they said this is the only appointment I can make for the whole entire month. And I go, the longer I put this off, and if it's cancer, then we're going to be in deeper problems here. So then I told her, I go, well, is this even necessary? Because the doctor that did the mammogram said that it would take, what did he say? Oh, that it was like a 4% chance um, that it would be with me. He said 4% chance that it would be for me. So I'm like, I have to go through this hell for this 4% chance. You know what I mean? Like they didn't give me any major options for this. And so they also said like I couldn't do the biopsy laying down. That was one thing they said. Then they said there was no other alternative. And then I found out later there was, which is surgery. Like they could put me out and then do it. And they said the reason why they don't typically do that is because the other procedure is less invasive, right? And I go, yeah, but mentally, dude, if you what happened was the doctor allegedly, I think he hit a nerve, which is the main thing that started making it go south. And it was not done in a caring way. It was very like fast food. Like, we're just trying to get you in and out. We're just going to go jam this damn needle in me. And it was so painful that, like, I almost blacked out. Like, I was almost blacked out in it. And then the lady was on top of me, pushing me down. And I was trying to lift my legs up so I didn't black completely out. And she wouldn't let me. And then she kept telling me her problems of her having a panic attack. And I'm like, we're not having a panic attack. And I kept saying it. I go, I'm not having a panic attack. I need to throw my legs up. And I'm about to throw up because that makes you nauseous as well. So then she's laying on my stomach. It was so odd. I was like, dude, the nurses, anytime that ever happens, they always get me to lay down and get my feet up. Or at least they try, if I tell them to. But yeah, that's what they do. And so, it helps me like not completely pass out. And they were just like chatting it up while it was happening. And I was like, this is so bizarre. Like, don't even care. Like, they're just like roaming the room while I was like blacking out. And she's on me and then starts saying things like, if you move during the procedure, there's going to be blood everywhere. And some people feel it, yada, yada, yada. And I was almost going to go do it, right? Because they had already numbed me. And then I was like, let me just come back to it, and then just finish what you're doing. But the way that they had me positioned was too awkward to hold in that position anyway for that long. because they said it was going to be 10 minutes, right? So this is what they're telling me, right? This is the information they're giving me. So then, that Shannon Doherty story came out, and I was kind of reading it, and I was like, yeah, the worst thing I'd want is something like that if it can be prevented, right? Um, and so I just kind of talked myself into, okay, I'm gonna, oh no, here's what happened first. So then the doctors call me, and somehow in the middle of this, they let me know that they gave some false information to the report of what happened. They told them that I had a panic attack. I go, oh no, that didn't happen. I have anxiety now where I might have one, but that's not what happened during the procedure, and it was a horrific nightmare in the procedure. So obviously they didn't give the, facility the real deal to that. So I had to tell them, and then they told me, okay, if you come in, we promise you'll have all new people. It'll be a whole different experience. It'll be totally fine, yada, yada. And so I'm like, okay. So then, in the middle of this, my normal doctor ends up moving out of state, and then I get this new doctor. So I don't know what the deal is with this. It's not good. So then I go in anyway because I already got approved for the thing, so I just went in anyway instead of going into the surgery thing because they were gonna send me off to the surgery one and talk to them and whatever. And then that was freaking me out too because I was like, I don't know which is worse in this thing. But yeah, so when I went in for the mammogram, not the mammogram, when I went in for the ultrasound, the lady made this sound far more like just even more ridiculous. So in the middle of this, I started getting anxiety. I did start getting anxiety, so I had to like get prescribed like this anxiety meds like for a little bit, and the first half of it was really bad. Whatever they gave me was like, I don't know. It did something weird to my moods. Like I was like, what in the hell? Like, and then one day, like I was like starting to have this like memory loss. I was like, I don't even know my password. Like it was that bad. And so I told her, I go, oh, we got to change this because I don't. It was supposed to like see if it would go away in like 2 weeks, and then it didn't. And then it seemed like it was getting worse. And then I was having these like sensations, like I was like electric shock. Like I don't even know how to explain it. Like almost like when you're about to fall asleep, like just randomly, and then you get that like kind of jolty feeling. It was doing that to me just at any time, and I was like, okay, that's creepy feeling, and I don't know what the hell. So they had to take me off that because it was terrible. Then they gave me this other one, which was not as, I'm not gonna say not as good. It's just a little different, and it doesn't do that. It doesn't do that at all, and I don't have to take it every day or anything like that. So it's kind of good. So, in fact, I haven't had it in a little while. So, but what happened was, when I went in there, I told her, I go, yeah, the doctor said that it's like a 4% chance. She's like, I don't know what that means, but it's like a category 4, which is la 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 la, not stage 4 cancer, but she was saying category 4 something, and I was like, like making it sound way more serious, like way the hell more serious than it was. And I was like, your mind in the middle of that is now starting to go, oh wow, this could really happen. And then they were telling me what procedures they would do if it was, and they said that they would do surgery, and then I'd have to do like some like radiation thing or something. And I was like, oh, like it just turned into this darker thing, right? Like it's more real than me just being able to just brush it off, because now they've done this to me at least 4 times where they did this cancer scare and then they go cut out pieces of me and do this weird crap. But no procedure was this bad. Like I thought those were bad. This was the worst. But yeah, and it always turns out to be nothing, right? So, I'm sitting here going, one of these days it's going to be a real thing, right? Like eventually, maybe as I get way older, or it could be somewhere else in my body, it could be any other thing. So, I mean, those are real, that happens, so, and the trick is to get it as early as possible with a lot of this stuff, because then, you have a better chance with everything. But the mental part of it is where they're screwing with me. And they don't care. You know what I mean? It's like this thing is like, you could have cancer. It's like, yeah, let's just tell everybody that, like that won't do anything to anybody. And so it kind of stopped me from doing some things that I had planned. I was supposed to do it this month actually, but because of this and for months this has been going on, right? Because it takes the thing about this is so annoying. Okay, so you have to prepare for that test like almost 2 weeks prior. And then you can't have certain things and yada yada yada. And then you have to, schedule it way out. So it's like, 2 to 3 weeks out. And then yeah, and then so if you don't do it, then you have to wait again another 2 to 3, 4 weeks, whatever, whenever you can schedule the appointment. And so in the middle of this, this is all going on. And so it just extended this time longer and longer and longer. And then finding out I had all these other options, which they didn't tell me, which that's what I'm saying. I go, all these things kind of made this experience like way worse. And then they didn't say anything about, oh, there's a possible, thing where we can hit a nerve and, do some damage. He tells me it like as he's doing it, he's like, and always, there's always risk doing any of this. So, it's like, oh, thanks, I mean, it would seem like common sense to think that, but I had no idea like that would happen. Like you just don't know that would happen. But then it went away, thankfully, but I had pain for about, I don't know, like 3 weeks or so, and I was freaked out. I was like, okay, I had no pain before, and that's not even why I went in. So it's not like a thing where I was having problems and I went in and it turned into this. No, they forced me to go do the normal thing, and they tell me come back in, in 6 months, and then COVID happened, and then I couldn't, and then we wait 3 years, and I go in, and they're like, you should have went in sooner. That's what he said. He's like, you should have came in sooner because there's changes now. So they're talking to you like this, right? So it's kind of like, oh, something serious now, and so it wasn't something I could really brush off, and go, oh, it's all bullshit again, because it was like, oh, we see something now. And it's like, oh, hell no. And, yeah, so I go in, and when I went in, oh, God, the lady that I made the complaint about, was the one that was going to see me again. And I was about to walk out. I had this big old fit. I go, I wanted to talk to someone right now. And that lady didn't even remember seeing me the last time. I was like, she's like, I never saw you before. And I was like, yeah, anyway, I need to speak to somebody right now. And so they pulled me over aside because I was having a fit. And yeah, because I was like I was about to have a panic attack. And I was like, I'm going to get out of here now because I'm not seeing that lady again because she's going to be talking about blood all over the table and panic attacks and her problem with dentists. That it was her going on like that. And, this whole thing, and you could feel it and all this bullshit. So I tell the lady at the Cedar, that I was like, she said all this, and they're like, what? That's not true. She said it's not true. She said the whole thing wasn't true. She's like, in fact, we could have you laid down if it's in an area that the machine can get to. And I was like, oh, see, exactly. I go, if you had me laid down, it wouldn't have caused probably all that anyway. And so you could. So they lied. That was the other thing about it. And then she said, oh, we're gonna get all new people, and just so you could wait in here. And then I talked to the other lady that would be in place of her, and she was so awesome. Like they should like give her a promotion. Like she's just an awesome person. Like it made this whole thing like completely different because it was like somebody who was like sane. You know what I mean? Because that other lady, I honestly cannot tell you what her problem is, but something not normal. And then, but this lady was like totally like, I don't know, she's probably like in her 20s, but she was like going through this whole thing, going, yeah, so we'll step you through the whole process as we're doing it, and you shouldn't really feel anything at all, and all this stuff, right? So then the lady that was doing it to give do the whole thing with her, right? The one that does the numbing and everything. She was awesome too, like both of them. She wasn't in there like just jamming it in or anything like that. They walked me through each step, and it was the most easiest thing I ever went through. And they're like, it's funny because normally people come in thinking it's a bad thing, and then they go in and they walk out saying, oh, it was less worse than what they thought, right? And I told her, I go, yeah, I think he hit a nerve, which was the first bad part of it. And also the way that they had me set up in the machine was also another bad part of it. Because this thing was not painful like the way that they put me in the machine. And they didn't need to put me in the machine at the start. So this is another thing that they did that was different. At the beginning, they threw me in the machine and before doing stuff, and then they wanted me to stay like that the whole time and then wait for the numbing and do this whole thing. And it's a very concocted thing that you have to go through. And then here they just had me lay on my side, do the thing, then numbed it, and then did the machine. And the machine was not 10 minutes. It was like, I would estimate 2 to 3. It wasn't that long at all. And I felt not a damn thing. You heard this little pop sound and it was kind of funny. And then that was it. And then she's like, we're going to put this little thingy in there just to show the area and that it'll stay in there. This like mercury, some titanium piece or something. Anyway, so I'm sitting here all freaked out, right? Like, so 2 days, they're like, we should have the results in like 2 days. I'm like, okay. So that was like the 28th. They were supposed to have it. And so like I call my doctor's office. I'm like, on the 30th, because I waited. I'm like, is anybody going to contact me? And then they're like, no. So I called them and I go, okay, yeah, did my results come back yet? Because they said on Wednesday. And then they said, no, so we'll give you a call when we get them. That's what they said. And so I'm sitting there waiting, right? A week goes by. I'm sitting there waiting still. I go, this is crazy. Like, it's mentally crazy, you guys. The mental part of this is the effed up part of it, okay? So then they don't care, right? My doctor's office doesn't give a you know what. So now they're bad. Okay, so now we have this like dual thing going on. So I'm waiting. So then 2 days ago, I finally go, this is insane. I need to know now because I'm under so much stress. Like, I need to know yes, no, so I can either prepare for my future or prepare for death. I mean, what the hell? Like, I don't know. So I'm sitting there like, prepare for like a surgery or something like that, that's a whole other beast. And I do not want to do that as is. But, so then I call him and, well, no, I called the other office where I had it done. And I go, did you guys send that out yet? Because they haven't even called me. And they're like, yeah, we sent it out 2 days later. And I'm just like, what? And they're like, yeah, I mean, if you need to, you can come here and pick it up. And it's like, I don't even want to read their stuff because I might misread their information because I don't know what it means. Because I had another biopsy done and I was like, I don't really know what that means. Does it mean yay or nay? Like, because the way their language is, I'm not a doctor. So, then what happened was I called my doctor's office and I started chewing them out because they're like, they try to tell me that it's my responsibility to call them to get results. And I go, well, first of all, I did. And then they said, you need to call after and schedule the appointment. I was like, I've never heard of that, but even regardless, I called. Okay. I go, I have proof on my phone. I called on the 30th and you said you didn't have it and that you were going to call me. And then it turned into this whole other thing. And then they're like, yeah, I see that we did get it. And then they go, oh, you don't have cancer. I'm like, what the hell? This whole thing like lasted for months and months and months, right? And I had to go through this like horrible treatment and anxiety and horrible. It is really bad. It was really bad how they overall treated me in this. And even my doctor's office, I was like, that's insane that you wouldn't call me having that back, just generally. Like, you're just like, oh, it's just a cancer test. It's just like, who cares? We're not even going to tell them, like, just let them know. Let them keep thinking like they could be dying, like, that's how they were treating it. And I was like, this is insane. Every single person in this. And, yeah, that was the experience. It was really bad. It was really bad. It still is bad. Like, I still don't believe it. Like, I'm like, I don't trust the results. Like, they're going to tell me cancer somewhere else. Like, I don't know. Like, because it was that, like, intense in this whole thing. And then I ended up, having that nerve thing from the first time. And luckily that went away. Like, some of that stuff can turn permanent though. Like, what if I got a permanent thing for this thing? And I would have been way more pissed if I went in for surgery to do this because it was so serious. And then it comes out, what they said it was a simple cyst. That's it. I'm like, you're telling me with the technology you have today, you couldn't tell the difference. Like, see, this is what I'm talking about. Like the whole thing about it. But even through the test, like they were making it more painful than it needed to be because I had it done properly right after. And I go, why did they do this prior? And then they could have done this after, right? Because if you treat me right on the second time and you were capable of doing that, why did you do the opposite on the first time, right? Where they just made it completely painful, like with the machine and everything else, like they didn't even care. So that's what I'm saying. That was not a good experience on any damn level, and I don't wish that on anybody, regardless if it was cancer or not. Like the mental part of that, that I, for whatever reason, and all these other cases, like I had anxiety in the other ones when they did stuff, but I didn't have the thing where I'm like, I don't know, my mind just didn't go into the thing like, what if it really is? And then, all my life plans are going to be over. Like it didn't go there, but it was like anxiety of going in to do the test. And, but yeah, for some reason on this one, it just was more real because it's more possible. And then how they were talking to me, the way they were speaking to me about it, like, this and that. And the only one that kind of downplayed it a little bit was the guy sending me out for the biopsy. He's just like, 4% chance. It's like, you tell me 4% chance, it means like there's more than likely it's not. But then I'm like, why are we going through this already then? You know? And he said, he's like, if I thought it was cancer, I would tell you right now. But I'm sitting there going, you couldn't do that anyway unless you did a test, right? Because that would be kind of reckless. Um, but maybe he's meaning like if it looked generally like that, like he might have said it looks more like that. Maybe he was meaning more like that, but he wouldn't be able to go, oh, that's cancer without having it, checked as far as I'm aware of. So that was another thing about it. I was like, well, you couldn't tell me anyway. So yeah, because I'm all sharp on that stuff. So, but as far as anything else goes, yeah. So then that's where it ended. And as of now, no. But like I said, it could come around again. And one day it could turn into that or something like that. So now I have I'm not going to be, yeah, I don't think you ever become mentally prepared for that crap. That was not, I did not like that because I had to deal with that growing up with people getting cancer a lot and going through that whole thing, and it's kind of like already have a reference of what happened there. And but the only positive in this, they were saying like it's an early, if it is, it's really early, so then you have a way better chance of getting something when it's really early. So that was the one part that was good. It's just the later parts where I'm talking to other people and other people are giving different information and lying about other information and mix ups and let's just take months to tell you, I mean, it's this thing about it that was just they could do better, and they should care. So it's not like, I mean, I don't know if it's a thing where I could sue them for that first thing, but I mean, who's going to go through that? I have a sexual assault case with them, with the medical board where they covered it up. So, and that was actually far more serious than a lot of these. I mean, it's all serious. Okay. I mean, it's just on a level of like, they should have done something there and not just let a doctor keep practicing after doing that stuff. And their assumption that it was a male doctor, and it was not. And then there was a lot of stuff, but I just wanted to let you guys know that because that was one of the things that was going on for months and months and months. And then some other stuff in the background, just like all this garbage. And then yeah, and then so now recently this case of the serial killer that hit the media, Oh my God, I was like, I know where that place is at, where that guy lived, because I used to be friends with somebody that lived right around the, not around the block, but probably about like, I don't know, less than 10 minutes from his house. And so I was like, wait, I know that because I had talked to this lady. We used to talk all the time, and we were friends for, I don't know, a couple of years there. Well, more than a couple years. I was friends with her, I don't know, somewhere around 2010 or so. Actually, right around this time. And I had to double check. I was like, how creepy would that be if it was the killer and I was talking to them the whole time? I was like, so I had to look and I was like, oh, no, no. But they did live nearby. And I was like, that's creepy as hell, dude. What the hell is that about? And I remember the case because they brought up the mystery of the bodies way back when. And so the media in 2010 was really trashing on women generally and mostly sex workers, right? So they had this thing. And I remember this really clearly because, if you guys know, as you should know, like I had followed the McStay case like really closely and was really on point with that particular one. And during that case, when I was going through his stuff, when they went to the Victorville area, there's a big desert area right there, right? And which is also the area where I think I was kidnapped to. If you guys recall I think it was the 1999, yeah, that thing when those people took me out to the desert somewhere. And I was like, I don't know where it is. And I think it was that area because I was trying to remember how they went on the freeway because we couldn't really see because we're in the back of a van. And then I had to call for help to get us out of there because they wouldn't return us, and me and the other girl, right? So, yeah, in the desert area, they had a story, and I was trying to research. I don't know what I was looking at researching this area, but when I was researching the area where they were found, their bodies were found where they buried them. Apparently, like they talked to I think it was the sheriffs. It was a weird story on a website, and it said, yeah, they just dumped a bunch of, prostitutes out here, and we don't have the capabilities or basically they didn't want to monitor it. So they're like, yeah, they dump them out here all the time, and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, what? And yeah, but that's what they said. This is in 2010. So this is law enforcement. And I was like, what the, so it means like, how do you, oh, for one, how do you know this? Because it was like, if you didn't find the bodies or go retrieve the bodies, how do you know they're being dumped there all the time? That was kind of question number one. And question number two, it's like, well, if you know there's an area where murders are dumping bodies all the time, why wouldn't you monitor it? How hard is a cam? You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine it being so expensive because people have freaking, those trail cams, like any type of cam to monitor that area. Because if you know that's a hot spot for murderers, why would you not scope that out? You know what I mean? That was a flag right there, and it seemed hella shady because of the way that they put it. But they're playing off of knowing the public hates women generally, and then they were trying to treat sex workers like they're not human, right? Mostly in 2010. So anytime they did these stories on these girls or transgenders or women of color, the women of color ones were bad too. They were terrible, all of it in the media, because they would do a story like that, right? And they're just like, oh, they're garbage humans. You know what I mean? They deserved it. Like, that's how they were talking, right? So then you didn't get photos of like who the girls are. Like, they don't matter. Their lives don't matter. They don't care, even if that's their career. Like, their career just got destroyed, regardless if you want to do that career or not. But a lot of these girls are just surviving, just trying to survive on this trash earth. Mean that you should get murdered? No. But this is law enforcement because they're a bunch of pigs. So then, and they were, screwing up all the rape cases, and, and then they minimized these guys' earlier conducts, right? So this guy here is old as hell, and he is, how old is he? 59. He's almost 60 years old. He's been on this planet for 60 years, which means from a child, he is a sociopath. Okay. So, at some point, his actions would be showing up, most likely throughout school. And then, he started doing these killings, right? We don't know when he started doing the killings. He apparently was also out here in Vegas, which is not good. And I don't know if he came into California, but a lot of these guys come into California just generally. So that wouldn't shock me either if that pops up. And then I noticed he changed his garage door, which is a shady thing. I actually don't know when he got the house, because when I was looking at the information on that, it's a little confusing. So, what I do know is if you go to Google Maps and you look in the 2007 part, there's a different garage door, right? You'll see the first one had windows on the top, right? And if you want to do something in the garage and you want people to see it, you might change the garage door, right, to one that doesn't have window things or something you could look inside, right? And so they were changed by who, I don't know, by the 2011 part, right? So these bodies were being jumped around 2010, maybe before that. And the brush had started overgrowing the outer part of the garage door. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting, because that means that they weren't opening the garage door, at least in 2011. I don't know what was going on there. Maybe they were using it as a storage, or maybe there was something else going on in the garage. We don't know, right? And he's allegedly married, right? And a father of two, and an architect. Now, I was watching the video of him talking. I go, this guy is the easiest flag to know he's a socio. Like, it was like right away, like he's talking. And there's people in the comments that are like, this is all hindsight. You wouldn't know, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I would know. I've met all these types. So he's on this scale of most of the ones that probably ever exist. Like, I could tell you about each one of them and their different personality types, and they're all kind of different in their own way. And some have different combinations of things. And he's actually one of those that I think may be autistic, because there's some things in this that he fits in this category of these certain ones that they I think professional, like I said, I have this clip on that where there's a debate on the terminology to some of this stuff, but I guess clinically they're calling psychopaths on this type. But I'm debating it because I used to say that myself, and I'm going, I think it might just be, this is just my personal opinion on it, is that they are just socios with like a combination, like he may be autistic and then he's a socio, right? So, because I have other ones in my stuff that have that, and so I'm kind of relaying on some of the past ones that I know in real life, that were verified to have the at least the autistic part, right? And then we know they're socio because of the other parts of like wanting to light people on fire. But the actions of these men. So he fits a certain type. He's the type that I was talking about. In fact, I think it got brought up on the Brian Koberger case too, because his he's a little what was it? Their social cues are off a bit, right? So when their social cues are off a bit, like just generally, like, okay, so people with autism don't run around talking about murdering people with a hammer, right? Typically, I'm not just saying typically, but sometimes their social cues can be off, right? Just a little bit, because they, whatever. There's different scales of that stuff, but they're not scary, right? Like, to me, they're not. To me, they're not scary. They might just be a little weird. They might look down on the ground talking, or, maybe they're not verbal. There's a lot of different things, right? But they're not scary. Like, they're not scary to me. Now, they would be scary if they were then also a sociopath, because that's what makes it really hella creepy. Because the one guy I had mentioned, this was somebody that the lady met off a dating site, and his social cues were so off. All he did was stand behind me and stare at my back. And I'm like, this guy is scary as hell, and he was tall and he was big, just like this guy. Like, exactly. It would be funny if it's the same guy. I wouldn't even be surprised. But he was a big, huge, tall guy, and he was staring at my back. And mind you, this was in 2017, and I was out sawing, right? So I had my, it's not a chainsaw, it was the handsaw, and I was sawing some wood. And luckily I'm the one that had that, because if he had that, I would have wanted to run like crazy. But I was sawing, and he just walked out in the backyard and just started staring at my back. You guys, now this is very awkward. This is not a normal thing to do. Like it, and then so when I turned around, then your normal reaction would be, "Hi, I'm so and so," right? Instead of just standing there and staring at you still, right? And saying nothing. No facial expressions. So I can already tell right there. There's nothing verbal going on. Sociopath. So then it turned into another thing where, he's criminal too, that guy. But I don't know his name or any other thing from that. But he was found through a dating site dating another lady there at the house, right? And I go, oh yeah, sure. There's probably like a million socios and everybody else on the site, and you pick the serial killer, like the one, that would probably have bodies in his basement. Yeah, and so then he made an ultimatum with her. He just met her, and he's like, yeah, I will help you with this like bullshit that she was doing. If you marry me right now. And I was like, what the hell? And then he was telling her to do her hair like mine, and then it made her all jealous and mad and being weird and more abusive than she already was. And I said, that dude needs to go. Like, that crap. Like, I don't want to wake up with a knife over, like both of them. Like, they were almost like perfect together because they're both psychotic. But he was really scary. He was a very tall guy. The same. Like, I'm looking at this guy going, I don't know what the hell. He looks like every other one that we met already. But his social cues on the video when they're talking to him are awkward. So that was also number one. And one of the neighbors that lived by him was saying that he was creepy and don't go to his house during Halloween, which was the same with that lady where the neighbors, like, they were like, we're not going to that lady's house on Halloween. I was dying. I was like, I'm so embarrassed of even being here. I'm so embarrassed of being here because, like, I like dressing up. Well, I used to like dressing up for Halloween and handing out candy to kids and, having all that fun and everything. And all the neighbors are like, these people are creepy, like her. And because her house was the same way, right? It's like decrepit. It's like you could tell like the inside of the house is like kind of a nightmare. And so and these people are insane, right? Both of them. And so they live very similarly. So this guy right here, the neighbor was saying, yeah, he's creepy. So then but they didn't think this. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, well, where do you guys not see the flags? Like, because while he's talking, he's not proper. Like, everything about him. Like, and then he also reminded me of Trump, like I was saying, because he talks just like him. And so that was like the first thing, because he was going on about how great he is and how much smarter than the room. And I was like, when I explain this stuff, I go, I know people are going to try to argue because I debate people and call them dumb or something. Not the same thing. He's talking like he's smarter than everybody at the code office and that he has all these books. So he's trying to make it sound like he's smarter than he is, right? I got all these books and I reference them because they don't know anything. And then I got all this thing. Like, it's just this he's playing off his narcissism. And so it kind of screams at you. It's not like he's debating the guy, like, I think your opinion is wrong. Like, there's not, like, this thing going on. I'm trying to define the difference for people to really catch this stuff when it's going on. Because if you pay attention, you could figure it out, like, real easy with these guys. And women will pick it up sometimes, maybe just from prior experiences with bad people like that. But I'm noticing a lot of them are not picking it up and thought he was a normal guy. And I was like, are you kidding? If I sat in a room with that guy for about not even 2 minutes, I would have been totally creeped out and I would have wanted to leave. because then he goes, okay, so besides that's his narcissism part, right? So a lot of people like to call people just narcissists. I'm like, you should be more worried because the narcissist part is part of that sociopath part. Okay, so it's just one of the layers in it. And so then he starts getting into this weird thing, and even the interviewer was like, okay, like, but they're not taking it in, like, they're not thinking of anything else. But to me, when I'm hearing what he's saying, I'm going, God, that's a stereotypical thing of what you would say a psychopath was, like the what he's going on about. So he was like, yeah, my job, something about my job. But the one thing I found that was most interesting is people. And you're just like, what? He's like, people, yeah, people, going into like learning about people. And yes, and I was like, God, that's so creepy, but it's so stereotypical. Like my brain goes right away, psychopath. Like, what in the hell? Because they like to I call them like the soul suckers. No, they and this is where the autistic part comes in, because it's almost like I don't understand humans. So, I like to sit with humans and try to learn how they act on their universe, like they're on a different planet, right? Like, I need to know how you react when you get upset, and I'm going to watch you how you get upset, and I'm going to take that in, and then I'm going to mimic it. And I'm learning how you're acting so I can learn how to manipulate you, and, yada, 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 that thing. And so he's doing this, right? And the interviewer is just like, oh, okay. Like, it was so funny because he's just like, I mean, what do you say to that? It was just weird, right? So it's just weird. Like, you should be picking that up. Like, that's just weird. It's not just like, oh, I really like meeting people because it's really interesting learning about other cultures, or like some like logical reasoning to like go there. But he's just like, humans, learning about humans, like, on my planet. We don't have like proper emotions here, so I'm learning that. And then, so okay, so then the number third thing that was totally funky was the hammer part. That was another thing. So in this conversation that interviewer is having, he should be totally freaked out about right about here if he's not already. Where he starts talking about, he's like, yes, it's a good thing to persuade something, something. Yeah. So he's not even hiding himself at all. He's not masking. He's not doing any of these things. That's why I keep saying, I go, these people are ridiculous when they keep saying that. I go, because a lot of these guys are not masking at all. Is he masking there? No. His narcissism is going on and being very sadistic and being open, like, you know what I mean? You think it's funny, huh? I know you think it's a joke, but I'm not joking. That thing. And so he's talking about this hammer. But another insight into the hammer portion was he mentioned his dad. And I was like, okay, we need to go back to the childhood portion because this is why he's this way, right? So he's mentioning dad and a hammer. And I don't know if a hammer was used in the crime. Sometimes those are the things that they had used. Or he may have pulled it out as a threatening thing to the girls, something. We don't know. I don't know right now. And I was reading something where one of the victims, I'm not sure if they had put all of them to him yet, but one of the victims that may not be part of the four that they're talking about was like bludgeoned to death or something, right? And so he may have actually changed up some of the ways that he does things too. So that's another thing, because the serial killers will sometimes do that. They don't always just do it a certain way. But anyway, he's going on like that. So that was flag number 3. Flag number 4 is him being off kilter and bad social cues, right? So he's at the very end was that. If you missed it at the first part of it where he's talking and being awkward, the very last part when the guys all smile and he's like, I am. And I was like, okay, there you go. And he's not, like, really. It's like, it's painful looking, right? So it's awkward. It's not normal. And you might think he's just joking around, but like to me, I'm like, I think to me, I'm like, he has something else, like with being a sociopath, like, because he's not um mentally disabled, like where he can't understand anything. Like he's pretty calculated. I don't think he's that bright, but he wants you to believe that he is, right? And he knows enough to manipulate you. And that was kind of the Trump thing in it. It was really weird. I was like, oh my God, he reminds me a lot of him, the way he's talking. He's like, oh, I'm the man of New York, I'm this and that. I got these books. So when these guys are stupid, I got these books. But it doesn't mean anything. We can all have these books as reference, right? But he's going on like this. And then, yeah, the end was just like, um, the social cues are really off. And so you should be picking up on those things. This is a certain type of one, though. It's not like they're all like that. But that particular type has that problem, and it's been in question. I'm like, I swear they have autism, like with it. Not that autism does that, because it doesn't, but that they have it with it, because that weird part right there, it's like, I don't understand these humans. That's the one, that's this guy right here is the one type that I believe that this type right here can't get like PTSD or anything like that, because I believe this is the type where they talk about their emotions, or some of it is like dialed down so much that you could literally like throw him into a war and he would probably run back all charged up and happy and everything else, and not even be traumatized by like killing a bunch of people over there. That's the crazy thing. So they're not all like the same. And and in this particular case, he's falling into that realm right there. But again, that's the one that I would have called psychopath, because they have that dialed down thing. And but I think there's just me. I'm thinking it's just the fact of that being the addition in it. And then what was the other thing I was gonna say about him? Oh, and so now he's doing a show. The show is him crying. That's lovely. He's not upset. If he's upset at all, it's because he got caught, but he must have known he was going to get caught, because as they're going through this thing, he's expecting to get caught because he's searching. Yeah, so he would call the victim's family, and then he said that he sexually assaulted the 24-year-old woman and then killed her. Yeah, like he was doing that with burner phones. So he was enjoying, like, it doesn't traumatize him, you guys. Like, there isn't anything like, I could literally hang this guy upside down by his head and right above a shark or something. It would not even phase him. Like, the way that his brain operates is kind of like, it's like dulled down. Like, I don't know if he wasn't even, the way he was acting when he got arrested wasn't even panicky or like how I would never do something like this. So something like this happened to me, let's just say, that happened and I'm innocent. I'd be freaking out. I mean, I'd be freaking out. And even if I wouldn't be doing these crimes if I wouldn't freak out over something like that, right? So a person that's capable of doing these crimes, like just randomly, like I gotta go kill people, um, a lot of things are dialed back, because you would not be able to continue doing that. And I think some of the ways you could also tell with people is if you're like me and you're like in a doctor's office and, I almost black out just at the getting blood drawn or something. Like, I think I would make a terrible serial killer, because I'd be in the middle of my crime and I'd black out. Like, I don't, like, that's I don't know if it's I mean, it's a common reaction for some people. So you couldn't do it like that. It depends on how they're doing it, but you couldn't go on like that. So those type of things don't bother him. So you could literally probably chop off his arm and he would probably sit there and be like, yeah, that hurt. But I mean, it wouldn't affect him like it would me. So it's such a strange thing, but their emotional thing on the inside is completely messed up. Like it's non-existent. Like he has emotions, he obviously does, but those emotions toward normal things like that, like he doesn't react the same way that we would, like people that have his issues. and not have his issues. What else? Yeah, and this is also going through so many besides my own in real life of dealing with these guys all over the place. Besides my own, going through the other cases of all these other guys, and they're not all the same. That's what I'm saying. There's the sliding scale of these ones, and then it's like one could have um just be criminal, minded. They dropped out of school and they're just a bunch of criminals and they go rape people and beat people up, right? There's those ones. They're a very classic type of socio, right? Like those are the ones I always kind of look at. And you'll notice that there's so many different variations in them, like this one right here where there's something else with it. And his emotions are not like he's a jerk. They did say he was a jerk. He could be mean and all these other things. But some types are very likable too. Like they don't go off the handle. So you'll see these different variations and just different ones. It just depends. Like the environment is such a factor, right? The intelligent level is a factor because as we're talking about Spacey, his intelligence is quite high. And so how he's reacting, he knows that if I don't act out, in a pissed off way or start telling people off or whatever, because I do that. But no, like he doesn't in the public arena. So he knows to play that off as, wow, you guys, I'm the victim. I had, like this, like, please, sympathy, sympathy, sympathy. So he knows. He's really smart, you guys. Like, I would say, if he was, like, lying about, like, some sort of thing on that, I would say that he was completely dumb if I really thought that, and I'd be questioning his IQ just generally. But no, he's actually a brighter guy as far as, like, how he manipulates. And so I always say, like, he was, like, the best to follow because you get the entire story of his life. It wasn't just like, oh, you just heard these stories of him raping some young kids now or, whatever. It's like you got the full picture that the parents were horrific and these things happened and this happened to the brother and the brother came out like this and then this came out like that. And then the brother's like telling you he's pretending to be taking mirroring. It was called mirroring, I believe, where he takes your part of your life story and he pretends it's his, like he's telling people it's him. And that's another thing that's pretty common with these guys. And then so he starts doing that and he starts playing himself into whatever he feels can elevate him for his need of power and control, right? So this guy right here, same thing. He's power and control, right? So he's looking, they were talking about the physical traits of the victims, which are like my size. So for some reason, I fit a lot of the profiles of these serial killers, and I was like thinking of it again too about it because I was like, yeah, there was one that was looking for all brunette girls in this certain age range that look like this. I go, oh, that's nice. I fit into that. And then here I fit into the small stature thing. So and I go, yeah, it's funny because they like to target me a lot. And I don't feel that I am that victim that they keep talking about. They keep talking about, oh, we keep trying to get these vulnerable, this garbage. I go, there's some more to it because as you're talking, they're saying that he's this big guy. He feels more powerful over somebody small, right? So it doesn't really matter what the situation is. But here he's particularly targeting groups of women who the government promotes to go rape and kill, right? Because that's what they've been doing. So they promoted this guy. So there was nothing in his childhood that would say, don't do this. It was more of a promotion of those people are bad, so you should take them off the planet. Yeah, so he got that message. And the thing that's key in this thing here, because he was born in 1964, I believe, is what was going on in the environment in 1964. Which was civil rights movements. I had to kind of look back at this because I wasn't alive in 1964. And so you're looking at the culture of racist, right? And you're looking at the culture of Christianity, right? And you're looking at the culture of general child abuse, right? Because that came in at that time. And so the parents were horrifically abusing the children. So if you didn't mind, there was a lot of abuse. It was very strict and very military like, and very, there was a lot of things going on in this time period. And they didn't care about child abuse then. They promoted child abuse then. They were slamming down religious fundamentalism like crazy then. They also promoted boys will be boys thing then. The general neglect of males at that time was really high because it was high when I was in school. So neglect meaning like, and beyond just like leaving your kids without a parent or whatever. But that was really big in Generation X of parents just letting kids run free and didn't care their kids were alone and all this stuff. And then a lot of bad came out of that. But the general neglect is like they know their kid's doing something bad and then they just let it happen and they don't correct it. And so when like, if you don't correct it, then it just becomes this like hardwired thing. So a good case was the one with the guy, Lauren, that harmed me when I was a kid, right? Where they didn't really hold him accountable. I mean, we sued and everything, right? But they didn't hold him accountable. They just brushed it off as a typical boy thing. And then he later killed somebody, right? And then I found a Facebook, I believe was his. I'm like, I believe it was his, where he's slaughtering animals now all over. It's all bloody and everything else, right? So he's not okay. And he was never okay, and he was not okay already by the age of, I'm going to say that was age 8 at max, that he was maybe at the time that he committed this crime. So already by that time, they're already set up for life to be this person. So it wasn't a thing. The thing that pissed me off about this story that just got me to even do a clip today, the news had a lady on there talking like, I don't know, they were trying to present her as the most knowledgeable on these guys. And I'm like, okay, I will tell you that that woman is not. She may know a lot on these guys, yes, but the tail end of something she said was total bullshit. Something about this being possibly from social media. And I'm like, no. So how would she be knowledgeable if she doesn't know how it comes about? Because it would not be a thing from social media. Now, number one, he was already killing by 2010. Social media just started around, I mean, was not even going on for that much before that. So I was on, MySpace in 2005? Like, so, yeah. And then prior to that, there wasn't much. They had the news group forums that we were on. And he was well over childhood age at that time, okay? So he is almost 60 years old. So he would have been 50 then, and then going into 45. Yeah, no. So they're childhood things, right? So it's not something that, oh, okay, I'm now like 40 and I went on social media and I now decided to become a serial killer. There's no such thing as that. There's no such thing as that. It would be impossible to be able to do that. You would have had to have something happening from childhood to be able to stomach to even want to do something like that. It's part of a makeup and a mindset of like, oh, you know what? Now I'm going to go murder some women. You know, it's like this thing. It's not something you would pick up from social media. The parents though, if the parents were like big time into social media and into content where it's like all anti, women or something like that, and then they're presenting it to the kid, well, it's into the environment now, right? So the environment is the thing that matters in these cases. So as we've seen, right, as we dissected all these cases with these guys here, right, and even the Paul Flores thing was so like, we can't get the full scope of his story over there because the parents are so whack. But you can kind of get a gist of there was some type of abuses there in his childhood, and then they cuddled it, right? They were being unhealthy in this case, right? So you can kind of get a gist in that case there of what happened to that guy, right? But Kevin's is actually quite open and it's very detailed. If you actually follow along and actually listen to the myriad of victims, which is hundreds of them. And then you listen to the brother and you read the story about the parents. And then he actually admitted, yes, the parents were like this. So it's serving, he thinks it's serving him well to agree with that. So, but it's good that that's there, because it's not a thing where he's like, oh, they're all lying. And, and then it causes this thing of like, what, what happened here? But no, you get the full picture of it. So it's like, if you're in my brain and you've already gone through this entire timeline of sorts, then it comes together and you can kind of see like where this thing started up. And it wasn't as an adult. It wasn't when he got into Hollywood or anything like that. It was something from childhood and in that in the developmental years right there, right? So yeah. And I don't think he just became smart though because of the parental thing, but he used his smartness to avoid a lot of that other stuff. Because I think you're born, you're either, I mean, as far as IQ goes, like, I don't know. I don't think it was something that he just developed for himself. Like, he's all smart. But I think that was the additions in his thing, because he was capable of manipulating much better, because he's not a dumb guy. This guy here is a dumb guy. I don't know what, I mean, his IQ could just be average. I don't find him to be very bright, though they could pop up and say like he scored 160, and I'd be like, I'd want to debate it. I don't think he's stupid in the sense of like some of these people commenting. He is he's smart enough to know that he could reference some books. Like, he could sit there and do that, but he's not bright as in like Kevin Spacey bright. Like, he's not that one for whatever he is, 140 over there, 137. I was like, I'm trying to remember what his thing was. No, maybe 90, like somewhere there, 97. Like, maybe average, just average intelligence. I should say it like that. Like, he comes off like that because it's like, why are you taunting using a hammer on a video clip? This isn't in private, like he's talking to his friends, right? This isn't a thing where he's like, I'm gonna go tell my friends like some joke like this, because it's not like gonna be played on YouTube. So he knows he's being taped. It's not a thing where he doesn't know. So he knows, and he's taunting it, but it's stupid because it's like, at the same time, he's looking up online, how did the cops not be able to trail my phone? Like, that type of thing. And good question. Why couldn't they? Because they didn't care. Because I know they're capable of doing this. Like, I've talked about this for a long time. And why I feel so confident in talking about my cases, because there's literal phone trails. And so if they ever dug into it properly, they would see that it's, as I'm saying, because you can't manipulate the phone trail, right? They didn't have phone pinging at a certain point here, but what they did have is the typical phone bill thing. So they were keeping track of all that. I believe that came out, that information also came out publicly like a long time ago too, but that was a way that they were able to do a lot of those cases, is following getting that phone trail. And I believe, because it came up in the Golden State Killer case, so I believe it went back into the, was it the late 80s? Yeah, there was a question, because I was like, I know at a point my parents didn't put their number public, or at least my mom didn't. And then how did somebody get the phone number if it wasn't even public yet and we had just moved? And then these calls were coming in from, the heavy breather. And so, it was like these questions to it. And I go, well, they could check the phone trail. So when I told FBI, I was like, yeah, the calls came in. I had to just really reach out. It was sometime between the 85 and the early 86. Some portion there right before that last killing. And so I figured if they could check it, at that time period, I didn't know if they could in 85. So, if they were capable of doing it, then they should have been able to find out that information right there, right? Um, they're able to track these things. So yeah, that was a good thing that he was looking at that, because he's like, well, so he's saying he's not really stupid, but he's stupid. Like I think he's an average guy. He's just like, why couldn't they track me? Basically, because he's like, it's kind of weird that I haven't been caught yet. Are they not capable of tracking phones? Like, it is making government look stupid on this. Yeah, like, because they should be able to. The problem is they're not. If you get a burner phone, whatever they're calling burner phones, because they think that the guy that was calling me in, I get, was it 2017? Whoever that person was, they're like, that could be a burner phone. And I'm like, what's a burner phone? It's just basically, I guess, somebody just getting a phone, and it's not like I guess a prepaid phone or something, some other phone. I was like, well, anybody can do that. So, but I still have to give them my information. Like, I'm not able to just go and get like even a prepaid phone without giving them my information. Um, I still have to give them my information to pay for it. So, I mean, I don't know, unless there's these different phones out today. I don't know. I don't know. I've never got a phone like that to use for some criminal activity. Um, but yeah, apparently some phone where it doesn't go back to him. And I think that this guy might have used a different name. I was reading some story and I'm getting confused at the victims in here. So I don't know if there was a victim on here where there was yeah, because he said, how could they not find him from the audio? Something about that. Yeah, so no, I mean, they said he was looking for 4 people, so I don't know if it's a thing where, unless they're not giving other information on other people he looked for, because it says they had looked for the 4 victims here. Let me see. Yeah, so they said he was searching for 4 of the women, and then he was only accused of killing 3, which makes no sense. I don't know why they didn't. And this is a hulking man in stature. It's like, just say he's large and fat and ugly. Come on. Yeah, he's just, they're working to tie him to her death. Yeah. Well, he obviously did if he's looking for it, so. Yeah, it just says, he did thousands of Google searches, looking at porn, whatever, and then nearby sex workers. And then, why don't you check some of those guys from Fox News, what their Google searches are? Yeah, so they're saying they're obtaining this information through Google. Um, let me see. He allegedly made 200 Google searches between March 22 and June 23. That's it. Related to the disappearance of the murders of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, all 4 victims. And that must be why he's like they know for sure he did the 4th, but they I don't know why they can't tie it. But I mean, why would you be looking for um people that you killed and then randomly throw one in there that you didn't even kill? That'd be quite annoying, right? Like, you're like, I killed those 3, but not that one, so somebody else. Yeah, there it is. Why could law enforcement not trace, weird sentence. Why could law enforcement not trace the calls made by the Long Island serial killer? Why hasn't the Long Island serial killer been caught? Long Island serial killer investigation. New phone technology may be key to break in case. Yeah, so that's what he was searching for. Like, I wouldn't, I doubt I would search for that, but I would question, like, if I knew the phone call part. I don't think none of us did, so they just found out that he was doing those weird calls. I don't remember. I don't know what came out in the case. I just remember the case and them talking about that area. I probably heard it as it was occurring 10, 13 years ago, right? And somewhere in between that. But him calling, so it would be unlikely that I would search. I mean, I could if I was really on this trail, but I would be like, why couldn't stupid ass government figure out the damn phone call, like where it came from, like what the hell? I would be questioning it though, if I knew all that. But I'm not the killer, right? So he's searching for himself. So a lot of them do that, right? Because I mean, okay, so you kill a whole bunch of people, like you'd be kind of concerned, like, am I getting caught? Am I about to get caught? Am I this? So he has to. It's on his mind. Why haven't they been able to catch me yet? Let me see. Like, let me search it up. Is the technology, is there new technology that's gonna break this case? I'm gonna get caught soon. Like, he has to know that he's gonna get caught eventually. Like I mean, he's looking for it, so it's showing like a concern, like why haven't they? And then he's gonna be reading the comments, is anybody on to me yet? And luckily this is not a case that I actually like went all in, and I would doubt I would have been able to figure him, because I would have had to he would have had to do something to be pulled up into this, or I would have had to known him, or the girl that I used to talk to knew who he was. I don't know if she does. I was like about to like send an email and go, hey, I haven't talked to you in a long time. Do you know that dude down the street from you? I don't know. Like, it creeped me out because when they said the city, I remember, yeah, like throughout this whole time, and I had to go look on the map. I go, dude, they literally don't live that far from each other. That's really weird. And I believe they had a flooding over there during some certain period. What else I have over there? Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to. I don't know. I mean, I can't say because I didn't scope this one out. I just heard about it, and it seemed difficult because they were saying they had very limited. I don't know. The information on it was strange, and they were trying to say some other guy did it. Yeah, so they had found some other remains in the 90s there too. So, and maybe this is a thing where, I mean, it could be somebody else too, but it could be a thing where he did it so long ago that he wasn't even worried about the 90s cases because it didn't really make a big old thing. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say right at this moment, but. And then one of them was a transgender, and I was saying, I go, that's really messed up because a lot of them get killed, right? Like, and when I was saying that, somebody got very defensive. I don't know what the hell it is. Probably some Christian loon or something. They're like, they do other jobs besides that. Like, where did I say that that's the only jobs they ever do? I never said that. But a lot of times, because of the discrimination, they may tend to do jobs like this because they're not discriminated against, and that it's survival. That was the whole topic actually when Sestafossa was brought forward, where they just ignored him. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. So this stuff is causing a lot of deaths, and somebody like him, if he thought it was a female, and he's not going to care, but he's going to end up doing something like that. And some other men have done that too, where they're assuming it's a female, and then it's a transgender, right? And then they start having this flip out, and then they may murder them, right? So they're at high risk for crimes like this. So yeah, that was the addition in this one. And uh, so, yeah, I don't think there's much more to add to it right at this moment. It's just another piece of shit white man that is no different than any other rapist. Oh, that was the last thing. So on the professional lady, that was I'm not professional. I don't know what she is. It's probably some ex FBI agent. Who knows? Anyway, she was talking about it like rapists are like not that many or something. Like the way she put it was almost like, oh yeah, and they kind of hide in society. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're literally out in the open talking about being pro raping. literally every day I go through these topics and I go in the conversation area and they're just like, there's nothing wrong with me doing a little groping, you know, when could we have some fun, you know, this and that and this and that, you know, like they're out in the open, like literally promoting raping women and doing all this crap. So, no. And they'll deny it when they're going to court. Because, I mean, what are you going to. They don't want to sit there and go, yeah, sure, I did it, you know? You're just throwing me in there right now. They want to have a fight, you know? Like, they don't want to go to jail. But outside them getting caught, they'll do like what a Steve Tyler did and write a book about it and brag about it and do all these crap things, right? It's up until all of a sudden you go to court and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, no. Yeah. And like I said, the whole society was pro raping women to begin with. So I don't know where you getting any room to deny that you're a damn rapist ever. You know, ever. That's really the word, ever. It's like, oh, did you just forget history? Like, well, did we just? Like I said, I had to go through my own history because they didn't have it in school. We didn't know this was even going on. You know, it's yeah. So if you have laws that are pro that, then you're a rapist. I mean, you're for it? So that's that. So his mentality. The only thing that's separating him from maybe a certain population of people is they're not all serial killers, but they certainly would sit in a room with this son of a bitch and have great conversation with them and agree on a lot of things. They would just be like, you know, he's a funny guy, you know, he's pretending to smile, and he's really, that's just, that's his thing. So, the lady on there was saying, what was she saying? That he gets off on hearing about the pain. I go, yeah. So when I do my stuff, that is a, I shouldn't say a concern. It's I know I attract them because of the topics, and they like the you know, hearing that they did all that stuff. But if you guys notice, I kind of talk about stuff differently than talking about it in a way where it should turn them on. Like, I'm not like crying and like, oh my god, you know, the guy did all that, you know what I mean? Like, for the most part, I don't talk like that, so I'm kind of like a killjoy for them. Yeah, mostly when I'm totally tearing them apart, right? Am I not? I'm trying to. I was like, I'm trying to. Screw that be kind crap on here. Yeah, so we're not for that. We're not saying being crappy to people, but I'm saying is that yes, they find enjoyment in doing these crimes onto people, right? It's about power and control, right? It's not about sex at all. This guy, no, not at all. Not at all. So, and it's not a thing where it's like, oh, it's so natural. We were born this way to do this. Like, I cannot say how many stupid guys have written articles or written books about, you need to understand that we're all a bunch of rapists and you all need to fucking deal with it. No, honey, you're the ones that have the problems. And so all they're doing is sharing their mental illness with each other. Excuse me, not mental illness, their personality disorders with each other, because mental illness is actually different. And they cause mental illness. So these guys cause mental illness in their victims, and these guys have a PD, which they might also have mental illness with it, right? Because obviously, if you were an abused kid or any other thing like that, then you do. This guy here, though, the thing that you should focus on is the childhood portions, and if you can get as much information on his family and the history of his family, and are they religious, are they what do they do, were they mean, did they do this, do you guys know any other information about how they were as kids, does he have any sibling, like does he have any brothers and sisters that could be honest and give that information, because that's kind of where you're going to find out the creation of this monster right here. And again, it's from years ago, from time period that I wasn't even alive yet. So a lot of us that are listening to the story were not alive when this monster was created. So it's kind of hard to go back to a time period where you were not even born yet, right? So people need to look into that. And he, like I said, he did bring up the father, and I was like, we're going to probably have a father-son situation here in this one. And it could be a thing where he is very controlling, very much like Kevin's father. I'm surprised Kevin didn't turn into a serial killer, but it could be because of the maybe because of the type of abuses that occurred there. Hard to say, like I say, like it's kind of a crapshoot with them because certain things got to be kind of present in the things, and so as we go through those portions, which are hard to pull because even when they went through the Jeffrey Dahmer one, the parents are full of shit. The parents are just a bunch of liars. I mean, they're nuts. You know what I mean? Like they talk and they're just like, everything seemed normal to me. He's playing around with some carcasses. We just kind of thought he'd grow out of it. I don't know. Whatever bullshit that they said. I remember watching that thing a long time ago, and I was like, these guys, you're not going to get much out of them because they're the problem in it. Because it's either a thing where they neglectfully didn't stop something or they were abusive to them, and they're not going to sit there and say, "Oh, we beat the hell out of them," And however they were being at that time was not healthy. Like none of those things at that time was healthy, and they see themselves as normal. Like it's a crazy thing. Like they're totally nuts and abusive, but in their mind, they see themselves as normal and nothing's wrong. And it's everybody else, and they don't see what the problem is. Just like with this guy. I mean, me reading the comments, I'm like, you don't see anything wrong with this guy? I could, like, literally name a million things as he's talking. This, that, and the other that I did at the beginning, right? They didn't catch those flags. And to me, that's scary because I was like, you should be picking up these things. I don't care if you couldn't figure out that he's a serial killer, but you should be picking up that there's something way the hell off with them, and you probably wouldn't want to hang out with them. It's kind of like that thing. Him, I would probably pin kind of serial killer type. That would have been me just meeting him. I wouldn't know for sure that he did that, but I would definitely be like, yeah. If you're not picking it up, it's because you're just uneducated and you think this is normal. Like, I can't think of any other reason why you wouldn't. You think it's normal. Like, there's nothing normal about this dude not talking. Nothing. There's nothing funny about hammers. There's nothing funny about that. So that's it. It's like, what does married have to mean anything? The marriage was about ownership of women. So what is your point with that? I was like, that's going to be a guy that's a fucking pig. I mean, it's just, I mean, it doesn't mean anything to anybody really. But yeah, I don't know. Like they're trying to act like it's a sacred thing. I go, I actually think it's a horrible thing, but that was even going on in society. But people are going to do what they're going to do. Like they view it differently today, but the mindset for men about it is about ownership. So what is he doesn't care that he's married. He doesn't care that he's married. He's off doing this stuff. I don't know if his wife was involved. Like they found some of her stuff on them, but I don't know. None of that would surprise me today because they keep pulling up these cases with these stupid women joining in on these type of crime sprees that, I mean, I don't know how many, I mean, maybe they haven't been involved in it, but at some point, it's like, this guy, how do you deal with him? He's not different at home. He's probably worse at home, if anything. But he's already going on about his ego. Like, you would have to deal with this giant ego narcissist, and him talking all sinister like that. Like, they start talking all this way. If he's talking like that on an interview, he's going on like that at home. Because he thinks it's nothing. That's just how he's talking. He's being a Trump. Like Trump! Like, there was a characteristic there that's like Trump.